Afternoon. After a typically light Nestlé lunch, you might be a little drowsy, but I'll be trying to finish talking before you're finished listening. But my name is Pat McGinnis. I'm not used to being called the Pat McGinnis, but I can assure you I've been called worse. But at any rate, very happy to talk to you this afternoon. My goal is to introduce you to Nestlé Purina and help you understand how we fit in with Nestlé's overall strategic framework, to provide an overview of the pet category and our leading position within it, to describe how we were positioning ourselves for continued and future profitable growth, both in North America and Latin America, and then finally wrap up with some Q&A. We had 2013 sales of $8.2 billion with a 6.7% CAGR. And that was comprised of a North American CAGR of 4% and Latin America with a very robust 25%. Purina is an important contributor to Nestlé. We represent 27% of Nestlé North American sales. We are the clear leader in our category. And Purina and pet nutrition are highly aligned with Nestlé's nutrition, health, and wellness principles. Almost everything other than the snacks we make are completely balanced to sustain growth and reproduction of animals. We have vibrant category growth and a portfolio of leading brands, and we deliver attractive margins. One of the things that continues to help us do this is we have very strong R&D and very deep consumer insights, and that drives growth through innovation and renovation. And every year we try to deliver at least 20% of our annual sales that are touched by innovation or renovation. So that's a big task. Like many other CPG categories, the majority of U.S. households participate in the pet care category. What is different about our category is the unique and highly emotional bond between owners and their pets. They are truly part of the family in most circumstances. As a matter of fact, and you can use this at cocktail parties, more U.S. households have dogs and cats than have kids 18 years of age and under. 61% of U.S. households have dogs or cats. 33% have kids 18 or under. And I think that's largely because dogs and cats are a hell of a lot less trouble than kids 18 and under. Not surprisingly, pet care is also a very appealing category to retailers because it is a significant traffic driver that attracts high-value shoppers. Pet-owning households spend 33% more per shopping trip than non-pet-owning households. We often refer to the importance of pets to people's lives as how people humanize the way they look at their pets. In fact, we believe it was this strong commitment to pets that insulated pet ownership during the early years of the recent recession. Though the pet category is certainly not recession-proof, it is in fact recession resilient. The slow pace of economic recovery did, however, ultimately result in a decline in the total number of dogs and cats. But I'm pleased to report that our most recent trends indicate that the total number of pets has now rebounded to pre-recession population levels, and we expect it to continue to grow. Given the close relationship between people and pets, it's not surprising that human food trends frequently foreshadow pet food trends. And I hope you can read this, but we created this trend framework several years ago, and it is grounded on the connectivity between human food trends and pet food trends. Though we are closely monitoring all 5 of the trends, the first 2 are the keys: seeking authenticity and healthier through nutrition. These have gained the most momentum in pet care. Purina's Pro Plan, as well as natural brands sold through the pet specialty channel, are well aligned with these trends. The category is healthy and growing. We are forecasting that pet care dollars will approach $30 billion by 2017. And the growth is over-indexing in natural and pet specialty. And some key drivers of this growth are the improving economic outlook, modest as it is, growth in pet population that I just referred to, and the trade-up to higher-priced products. We are the clear leader in U.S. pet food. Today, our closest competitor, Mars, lags us by about 20 full share points. Now, if they are able to effect in its totality the acquisition of the P&G brands, that advantage will narrow, but we'll still have a 13-point lead. As we look at share gains, it becomes apparent that brands positioned against the two trends we discussed earlier, seeking authenticity and healthier through nutrition, are succeeding in the marketplace. And one thing about all other, it is growing, but it represents literally hundreds of very small brands that represent anywhere from $5 to $15 million in sales, primarily with a natural orientation. We are the only major manufacturer that is gaining share in the near term. And the voluntary wagon train withdrawal at the beginning of 2013 impacted our share significantly on the downside. But we're back in the market, and our Q1 data of 14 shows that we are back in a position of recovery of market share growth. In addition to the overall share leadership, we hold the number 1 or number 2 share position across all subsegments of pet care. We're also proud of Purina's equity profile, which includes a decisive advantage across many important attributes, including trust, shared values, and passion about pets. As you will see in the next several slides, Purina's share leadership is a result of an exceptional portfolio of brands that reflect a deep understanding of each brand's unique consumer target. To protect and grow market share, it all starts with the consumer. We spend a lot of time and money understanding the consumers, their attitudes towards their pet, and their wants and needs. We firmly believe that pets and people are better together, and that life with a pet is a truly rewarding experience for both. There is even some very compelling evidence that for seniors who are living alone, that the presence of a companion animal in the home does a lot for their blood pressure, heart disease, so on and so forth. So it's really interesting. And our understanding covers a wide range of areas around the pet and the pet owner relationship. It can be a parent-child relationship, it can be a friend, it can be an outdoor sporting partner, it can be a soulmate, whatever. And depending upon that relationship, the role of the food that they feed it varies. How it nourishes the pet and how it feeds upon the relationship. Our strong portfolio of brands allows us to meet the needs of different consumer segments. Strength of our brands and our consumer and deep shopper insights keeps us relevant to retail. That's why we are the primary category management leadership position across the country. We have a lot of big brands, as I mentioned. Dog Chow and Friskies are billion-dollar brands in the United States. Cat Chow, Beneful, others are coming quickly, particularly Fancy Feast. We anticipate continued strong growth from our Pro Plan and Beyond brands as well. And you'll see the new Beyond brand items if you take the pet tour tomorrow. Pro Plan is the flagship of our portfolio. And it is a great example of how we couple deep consumer insights with nutritional expertise. The proof is in the strength of how the most discerning pet owners, what we call the enthusiasts, and in this I include the people who do the show dogs, the sporting dogs in field trial, and so forth, and how deep their use of ProPlan is. The last 8 consecutive Westminster Dog Show Best in Show winners have all been fed ProPlan. And 80 of the top 100 sporting dogs feed ProPlan. And we do not pay them to do that. Our wet cat portfolio provides a good example of how we have driven premiumization in the category. The strategy behind our premiumization efforts is simple. Find out and value what the consumers value, and deliver extraordinary product experience for the pets, and that's discernible for the owners to see. A great example is Fancy Feast Elegant Medleys. It was developed from a concept of restaurant-inspired recipes. I go back to that humanization. It's a perfect example. And the concept was so well received and the product superiority was so strong to anything on the market that it enabled us to charge about 150% superiority price index. It was a great premium. This generated double the bottom line margin from the base brand, and it became a $100 million addition in just 18 months. We have since rolled this out to Europe and to parts of AOA. At Purina, we are big supporters of the Nestlé premiumization strategy. It's all about creating new, exciting meal occasions. We now have concepts that cover breakfast, lunch, and dinner, as well as appetizers for special feeding moments in between. Another one of our key categories is cat litter, a really snappy subject right after lunch. But for the past 4 years or so, the litter category had been fairly quiet on innovation. But we have turned the tables on that and we are leading the charge. We believe that our new lightweight litter will fundamentally change this category. Now, if you're familiar with typical clumping litter, you lug a 40-pound bag and you take it home. And that's not a lot of fun. Well, we invented a process where we have all the performance of traditional clumping litter at virtually half the weight. So if you used to pick up a 20-pound bag, you now pick up a 20-pound bag. Did I say that wrong? If you used to pick up a 40-pound bag, you now pick up a 20-pound bag. But I'm glad you're still awake. That's great. And consumer acceptance has been phenomenal. We built a certain amount of capacity and the demand just soared. We had been on allocation since late last winter until just this past month, and we now can supply full national distribution. So the fun's just beginning with this product. Snacks are also a dynamic and growing segment of our portfolio. And if you didn't get a chance for dessert, there's some lovely bags of Beneful in your little goodie bag there that you may want to crunch on. They're not only tasty, but they will help your dental health. So highly recommended. And we are bringing innovation across our entire line of snack products, both cat and dog. A great example of this is our Bacon Poppers product. I don't know if you've seen this, but it comes in a plastic container. It's got a button. You push the button down, you put the product on, bing, shoots it out, and dog doesn't know where to go find it. It's great entertainment. And it's off to the best start of any bacon product we have ever launched. Now, I don't know if you caught it, but in fact, Jimmy Fallon did just a terrific skit with the Beggin' Poppers on The Tonight Show on May 21st. And it was hilarious. It's on YouTube and so on and so forth. But somehow he got a dog's head up through his suit coat and was reaching around and throwing the Beggin' Poppers. He's a unique guy. Digital is a key area where Nestlé Purina is viewed both externally and within Nestlé as a leader. Last summer, we acquired Pet Finder, a website which helps consumers find pets to adopt. This was the first digital property that Nestlé has ever acquired, and it is an opportunity to further our mission by helping shelter pets find homes. It's also an opportunity to further build relationships with millions of pet owners and potential pet owners. The Feed is an exciting initiative for us and one that we are expanding. We now have over 15 people on site in our headquarters in St. Louis who track social media, such as Twitter. They track it live and interact with pet owners in real time, answering questions, offering assistance, or just calling up and saying, "Happy birthday," to one's dog or cat. Consumer feedback's been terrific, and I think it helps bridge the gap between the perception of a big company that doesn't care and a pet care company that really does care. And this is important. It also helps reinforce the Purina brand. In e-commerce, we're also working to be cutting edge. We are committed to being the best partner for our retail customers as they move into the digital space. Internally, we're also launching online products such as Just Right, which is a personalized dog food delivered directly to consumers. They answer questions, we build a custom formula, pack it in a bag that's got their dog's picture on the front, it's delivered to their door. This is in the early stages, work in progress, but it's a pretty neat situation. I mentioned earlier there we go, the strong category growth in the natural space. Our recent acquisition of Zooks and the expansion of ProPlan are two ways in which we plan to better meet consumer needs for natural products in the pet specialty arena. We also believe that our core grocery and mass merchandise consumers are interested in natural. Clearly, the grocers and the mass retailers are interested in this. So we are relaunching our Beyond brand as a natural offering in these widely distributed channels. This lineup, along with more innovative products to follow, will allow us to bring natural products to consumers with the convenience of shopping at mass or grocery outlets. Over the past several years, as some of the category growth shifted to natural brands focused on ingredients, we feel that we have not done everything that perhaps we should have in acting as the leading voice in the category. As such, there have been some misconceptions, ones that were created in some consumers' minds regarding the importance of certain ingredients and nutrition. We are working to reassert Purina as the voice of the category. Another one of the keys to our success is our total product supply chain expertise. A key tenet of ours is to make it where we sell it. As you can see from the map, we have production facilities which cover the entire United States. 99% of Purina pet food sold in the United States is manufactured at Purina's own plants in the United States. This contrasts with many of our competitors, particularly in the natural space, which primarily outsource their production to third-party manufacturers. By making it where we sell it, and typically we don't ship product any farther than 300 miles, we are able to minimize distribution costs, thereby supporting our strong margins while allowing us to keep our pricing competitive. Another key to our production model is a focus on the environment and minimizing our impact. A great example of this is how we have reduced water usage at our pet food plants by 23% since 2004. It's been a big effort. I would now like to switch to take a few slides to share some perspectives on our Latin America business. We continue to view pet care as a very attractive category for Nestlé across the Americas and would focus you on what we call caloric coverage. I talked to some people about this last night and at lunch. Caloric coverage, which is shown on the left side of the slide, is defined as the overall percentage of pet nutrition that's delivered through commercially prepared pet foods, as opposed to table scraps or whatever. As you can see, the average rate in the US is 82%, but it is only half that in Latin America, meaning that there are millions of cats and dogs not currently eating any or much commercially prepared foods in Latin America. The good news for us is that caloric coverage in Latin America is expanding rapidly, creating significant growth opportunities. Our biggest opportunity in Latin America is to keep up with capacity. We're growing very rapidly. And while North America will grow nicely over the next several years, Latin America is projected to more than double. The bottom line is, for the Americas, we have nearly a $19 billion growth runway ahead of us. Given the growth profile I just shared, it should not surprise you that we have significantly increased our investment in Latin America. But I really want to underscore this point. Importantly, not at the expense of the North American market. Nestlé, the group, continues to be very strong supporters of our pet care business. In Latin America, much like in the US, we have a strong portfolio of brands and have enjoyed strong growth in the market. As you can see, we posted organic growth of over 35% in both our premium and super premium brands. We're especially excited by the introduction of Ravina, a new super premium brand from our portfolio on the Brazilian specialist channel. This is made totally from locally sourced Brazilian ingredients and seems to, in the very early part, be really resonating with the Brazilian specialist channel. Here you can get a feel for how some of our brands come alive in Latin America and some of the different channels of distribution. We've got very pervasive availability of our products. As you know, clearly, there's a lot of change occurring in the pet care category. Growth of natural foods, mergers, IPOs, so on and so forth. As always, we need to adapt and improve to remain competitive in this marketplace. But let me assure you, that is nothing new. Pet has been competitive and dynamic for most of the 80-plus years we have been in business. And contrary to public opinion, I haven't been around the entire time, but I've been around for a significant portion of it. And we have been and plan to remain the leader in this category. Ultimately, we are changing some of the things we do, but not who we are. I'm proud to say that we continue to deliver solid results for the Nestlé Group. Since 2011, we have demonstrated roughly 4% compounded annual sales growth. And if you backed away the impact of the withdrawal of Wagon Train, that number would be 7%. Our 2012 and 2013 operating profit was negatively impacted by the voluntary Wagon Train withdrawal. But excluding this impact, our operating profit in dollars has grown over this time, and we remain nicely accretive to the Nestlé model. And importantly, we have improved our return on invested capital over this period by more than 300 basis points. In closing, before we move to the Q&A, I want to thank you for your time and for staying awake right after lunch. And I hope you come away from this discussion with as much excitement about the pet care business and its potential as we have when we go to work every day. So thank you, and be happy to go to questions.
Okay, thank you, Pat. Okay, questions. Pat can answer any question you have.
Or dodge it.
So give them a really, really tough one.
Yes,
okay.
sir.
Alan.
Hello, Alan Gruber, Main First. Just a question. I mean, you already have very nice operating margins. How do you think you can even improve the operating margins via increase of gross margins or even reducing SG&A costs?
Well, our SG&A is pretty close to best in class. It's going to be hard to material impact that by dropping SG&A. I would suggest to you that we will do it opportunistically. There will be years where commodity costs allow us to increase our profitability. There will be some years where a combination of commodity cost swings and competitive activities allow us to basically hold. We've got a high enough margin structure where, as best we can figure, we're way above our competitors. And I think the capital markets always reward a higher growth rate more than they do some incrementality of a minor degree on margin. So my business model, depending upon the marching orders I get, are to maintain or modestly grow our margin structure as long as we can drive the growth curve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's correct.
That's great.
Yes.
In the back, sir? Or you want me to call him, or do you want to on that?
No, you can. You are the Pat.
Thank you. Kartik Swaminathan, Bank of America Merrill Lynch. Can we have a little bit more detail about the size of the opportunity in litter? So perhaps the size of the market, and has anyone else actually innovated a much lighter litter as the product that you've launched?
Okay. The litter is about a $1.2 billion category, and we've got about close to 40% of it now. And that tells me there's 60% we don't have yet. So we're going for it. We do have some good competitors. Clorox is a good competitor. Church & Dwight is a good competitor. But no one has yet cracked the technology of what we've done with lightweight litter. We haven't seen that yet. And we do have some patents and some other things that we think will give us some runway time on that. Sure hope so.
As a quick follow-up, is there any visibility on growth rates that you can give us, and whether your lightweight litter could be substantially taking share?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the first part of that? I just didn't quite hear it.
Sorry, on growth rates?
Yes.
If you could give us some visibility on that and whether lightweight litter could be substantially taking market share over time?
Sure. We had been growing at about 4 to 5%. We're now growing around 9 to 10% in litter. We think we've got hopefully another year to 2 years at that rate as lightweight starts to reach the penetration that we hope it will.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Thanks, Andrew Lazar at Barclays. Two things. One, can you talk about what type of growth we've seen in the pet specialty channel last couple of years, and more importantly, the type of runway that you think we still have in that channel for growth? And then within that, how have Nestlé's or Purina's shares, market shares look with a number of the other entrants, some of which that have grown pretty rapidly into some very big businesses? Is there an inflection point there where you can start to see your shares pick up some ground again in pet specialty? Thank you.
You bet. Thank you. Good question. Let's take the macro first. Pet specialty has seen over the past year and a half some of their growth rates moderate a little bit. They did have a great run, and they're great organizations. They were favoring, I think you could have a theory, they were favoring some of those natural brands too much. at the expense of some of the other more widely distributed products, which drove a lot of traffic. And if you've been following, the PetSmart and the Petco reports, their business trends are directly a result of they've seen some drops in traffic. We think that perhaps they will readdress themselves to some of the key merchandising plans that were in place 3, 4, 5 years ago that helped drive more shopper visits, more traffic, period. While they get a lot of the natural buyer, as near as we can tell, is only making about 4 visits a year. And that's not enough for what they want in their growth pattern. So I can assure you that we are arduously working to get back to some of the growth trends we had there. We've still been doing all right, but we are not doing the growth rates with them that we were 4 and 5 years ago, and we absolutely intend to get back there. So I hope that responds to your question. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, can you hear me? Okay, is it on?
Yeah, that's a little better.
Okay. My name is Alicia Forey with Canaccord Genuity. My question is on the map that you showed us, the footprint of your factories.
Yes.
And hearing what you said about the 300-mile distribution radius, it looks to me like perhaps you aren't touching parts of the northwest of the U.S. And I was wondering if that is in fact true. Is that a future opportunity for your business, or is there some reason why you've chosen not to participate in that area?
Okay. I recognize the map looks a little skewed, but it goes right along with population density. We figured we didn't have to have a plant in Montana where they have more cows than people. You know, and by and large, I'm going 300 miles. Now, are there some spots up in, northern state of Washington where we're shipping a little farther than that? Yes. But for the great majority of our retailers and the customers, particularly like when we're shipping Safeway in San Francisco, out of Flagstaff, Arizona, or out of Denver, Colorado, we're not too much farther than that. And then they're taking the distribution pattern, from there north. So obviously it's an average, and you can find a few gaps, but there isn't a whole lot of population where we do have those gaps. But it's a good question. And the important thing is, it's even more important in the cat litter business. Most of our competitors have one facility. We have 3. We have one on the East Coast, one in Missouri, and we have one in California. And why that's important is before the advent of lightweight litter, you went overweight before you cubed out in a shipment. And compared to like a dry dog or a dry cat, the distribution costs of shipping cat litter is a dramatically more important part of the P&L. It's kind of like shipping crowbars. And the cost of that is dramatic. And so the fact that we have 3 factories compared to our competitors with just one, it really gives us, there are 2 in litter, not just in pet food, a tremendous product supply advantage. And the back, sir?
The question is around the Mars acquisition of IAMS from P&G. You mentioned it at the beginning of your discussion. If that deal does go through, do you expect it to have a material impact on the competitive intensity of the overall US pet care market, especially in the kind of more premium part of the market? And then just kind of an add-on to that same question, how have your kind of market shares, how are they looking in dry cat, dry dog, wet cat, wet dog, the big 4 segments, vis-a-vis Mars over, say, I don't know, the last 6, 12 months? Thanks.
Okay. I think everybody can hear that question. Good question. Let me tackle the share trends first. Our share trends are terrific in wet cat and dry cat. We're getting some dry dog share back. Where we're still lagging is in snacks, which was virtually all the withdrawal of Wagon Train for that period of time. Our snack share is now rebounding. You may recall earlier in my presentation, I said that we are now the only major manufacturer that is gaining share. So that is true. I think with the Mars versus P&G thing, it's almost like which bear do you want to fight with? You know, I mean, I remember when Procter & Gamble in 2000 bought Iams and Eukanuba. And I thought, well, that's the last thing I want is to have Procter & Gamble in my category now. We weathered that storm. We've competed all our lives against Mars. This will reduce the share gap, but I'm not persuaded that Mars is going to do any better job than Procter & Gamble. I mean, they both do a great job. So, like I said, if it was going to Mars from an organization that I thought did not have a lot of capabilities, you know, I'd sleep less than I do now. But I think the fact, you know, and Procter worked in different ways. I mean, when you compete at Walmart with Procter, they put their whole basket of products, their whole weight to bear, and would get favors. You know, I say this simply out of jealousy. They would get favors, you know, in the pet care category because of their aggregate size of the trading relationship with Walmart. Now, Mars won't be able to do that, but Mars has some other capabilities that somewhat of a bigger focus on pet care. I mean, Procter certainly had it when they first bought it, but you know, that was never Mr. Lafley's acquisition, and I think it's in the last 2 years or so, it's been treated with some kind of neglect. So I think Mars has got to restore some momentum, and you know, part of my paycheck will depend on trying to prevent them from doing that. But it's going to be interesting. It always is. But we know how to compete with both. Yes, ma'am.
Just in terms of leveraging the Nestlé other businesses into pet care, could you imagine ever building up a little bit more in the cosmetic or beauty treatment for pets? And also, could you also see yourselves moving a little bit more higher in the health area, more towards veterinary or more medicalized nutrition for pets?
Well, some of that's above my pay grade, but you know, I think that there's some interesting things about that. You know, we've looked and even tried some things about pet hotels, about, you know, grooming salons, stuff like that, and you start messing with that, and that's a technical term. You know, you start doing that, and all of a sudden you're competing with PetSmart and their line of grooming shops, and they're not very happy with you. And you start competing with the vets, and you get their attention pretty quickly, and they're not very happy with that. So this thing's got more snakes than Medusa. You know, you got to be careful where you go. And I don't think we know enough about skin care, and if we get some help from L'Oreal or somebody, I don't know whether, you know, that would ultimately be forthcoming, that we'd know how to do that for companion animals. But there are some restrictions that you got to be pretty careful with. Yes, sir.
Hi. You just said that P&G...
Please identify yourself.
Sorry, it's Adam Spielman from Citi. You just said that P&G had an advantage because it went to Walmart with the whole of P&G's weight behind it. And I'm wondering whether you would see an advantage if Nestlé did the same, particularly with the One Nestlé initiative. And if you're not doing that, what's the advantage of not doing it? Thank you.
Yes, we do that. And what I would suggest to you is Procter's still their #1 vendor. We're very close. But PetCare is about the only one that we compete with directly. And they used it very effectively. They've been doing this a lot longer than we have. We're playing catch up in terms of the aggregate. And Procter has ways of shifting funds around that we don't do. I'm not saying they're doing anything wrong. It's just they have some practices that, because of the way we're organized and the way we do our trade spending allocations, we don't do. They did a good job of that. I think their influence in pet care has waned over the past couple of years, even at Walmart. So, but yes, you know, and a lot of the things we've done over the past 7, 8 years is to not only at the customer point of contact aggregate Nestle's business, but we've done a great deal in the backroom things in terms of procurement. Paul Grimwood referenced this earlier. We've done a lot of things in terms of procurement and so forth that aren't consumer-oriented or merchandising-oriented, where we've reaped a lot of savings. And we do that, we do that with our retail sales organization. So we've done a lot of things that help us aggregate our abilities. Yes, sir.
Stuart Reeve from BlackRock. Sorry, I know it's very small, but this Just Right business, sort of can you talk a little? It must be a very different business model, customized packaging, direct to the home delivery. Can you talk a little bit about that business model and whether it will ever be sizable for you?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. That's what we're trying to find out. You know, we think it's going to have a niche. Otherwise, we wouldn't. You know, we test marketed it with some of our own operating companies, employees from our own operating companies, and got a pretty good response. And now we're trying it in certain geographies. And it's tricky. You know, we're not into the store door delivery business. We're learning how to work with UPS and others on this kind of thing. And the nutritional science is the easy part. The business model of the rest of it is the tough part. And I'd love to tell you that it's going to be a slam dunk. That wouldn't be accurate. This is in the genesis. So, you know, hopefully 2 years from now, who's ever talking about this, me or somebody else, will be able to tell you that we've made a really great start. I apologize, there's just no more information. Got time for a couple more before the gong show hits me here. Yes, ma'am.
I recently saw some data that made it look like in the online channel you were under-indexing versus where you should be based on your market share, and particularly that you were less present in the list of favorites and top brands. And I just wanted to see if that's, I guess, a view that resonates with you, and what you need to do to, I guess, get your presence online up to the right level.
Well, I don't know what data you're working with. I'm not aware of any data that says anybody's doing a lot better than we are there. Certainly everything we're doing there is fairly experimental. We're building off a very small base. We're building a very nice business with Amazon. And we're doing some other e-commerce things. And you know, if someone's way out ahead of us, it's not apparent to me, and none of our customers are telling us that. So, but I mean, don't misunderstand me. It's a little less than 1% of our business. But, you know, we think that we've got some programs working in the right direction to try to build that. But there are a lot of logistics issues. Shipping the big bags, do they have to repack them? Do they not have to repack them? You know. Okay, well, either I put you to sleep or I've answered everything.
There's one last one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Just on private label, you've seen private label doing quite well in Europe, in pet care, food, etc. What do you think about North America? Do you think it's just going to come eventually in bigger shape than it is currently?
One more time, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just private label. What do you think of the threat of private label in North America in the future?
Well, you know, private label has never gotten nearly as big in pet care as it has in other product categories, such as paper products and so forth. And I think the reason for that is, I go back to where I started out. There's this emotional bond with the pet. And there are a lot of pet owners that are not attracted to store brands in terms of the pet care space because of the relationship that they have with their pets. I mean, it's smaller now than it was, you know, back in the 70s. in terms of percent of the category. So we don't spend, perhaps we should, but we don't spend a lot of time worrying about store brand and pet food. You know, we try to keep it in check. We'll use a promotional strategy sometimes to make sure we are keeping our share positions to where we want them. But we don't think that's going to be a growth vehicle in the pet care category.